everybody, and welcome back to Movie Files. Elliot here with the last review for one of my favorite shows ever, the series finale for Game of Thrones. In this last episode, our season the last episode of the season was titled The Iron Throne. Now, in this review, this is going to be kind of obviously talking about the episode and spoilers. If you haven't known already, we've been doing these recaps, reviews for the last 6 weeks now. So full spoilers ahead, warning you now. But I want to talk about the episode, obviously, and talk a little bit about the season as we wrap up tonight, as well as my overall thoughts of the series. So definitely stick around to the end to kind of get all those thoughts. But before we get into that, I want to welcome all you to this channel. If you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button. If you don't know, we are all about movie reviews, TV reviews, trailer reactions, unboxing videos for the new releases, and we also do giveaways on this channel. So definitely do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with those videos. And then also, with this being a big series finale, I want to know all of you all's comments below, whether it be good, whether it be bad. Let me know your thoughts on the overall episode. But overall, what did you think of this series? I know it's kind of hard to kind of encapsulate 8 seasons in one comment, but just let me know what you loved about the show and really what got you on board to be a Game of Thrones fan. Let me know in the comment. But with that being said, we're going to dive deep into this episode and share my overall thoughts with you in this review. So let's get into it. All right, so recapping what we essentially got and sharing my thoughts of these scenes. So we start off in the episode, which I thought was a great way to start off, which was the aftermath of Dany's decisions of last week to not listen to the bells, but just wreak havoc on Westeros and King's Landing. And we see Tyrion kind of walking through the streets. He sees a guy that's burnt. His skin is kind of burned and peeling apart. We see Tyrion looking at the mother and daughter, as I assume was the mother and daughter that interacted with Arya last week. We see the aftermath of just burned bodies and just destruction. And we see the look in Tyrion's eyes of just what just happened. What did I allow to happen? Did the queen I believed in for so many of these seasons, did she turn to what, Varys predicted and some of the other people might have predicted? I just ignored it because I believed in her so much. So we see that aftermath. We see Jon seeing that as well as we see the victims in the street. And we see Tyrion and Jon kind of share a moment. And Tyrion tells Jon he's going to go find Dany to kind of talk to her. And Jon offers to send some men with him. But he tells Jon he wants to do it alone because I think at this point he's just devastated. He just doesn't really want to he doesn't want to fight fire with fire per se. He just wants to see what is her mindset. So we kind of go into the episode, we see Jon, leading his way to Dany as well. He runs to Grey Worm and they kind of have a conflict, which I would love to know you all's thought. And this is completely separate from this review, but I would love to know, just curious, who do you think will win in a fight between Jon and Grey Worm? If they did, ever go sword to sword, squared up, who do you think will win that fight? But we see Jon talking to Grey Worm. Grey Worm has, I believe, it was like 4 or 5 of the Lannister soldiers that remained alive, and Grey Worm tells Jon that he wants to carry out what his queen demanded, which was kill anyone that supported Cersei Lannister, and Jon kind of holds him back, and they kind of, the Unsullied kind of draw their weapons, and then Jon's, North people draw their weapons, and there's a little bit of conflict, but Sir Davos kind of calm heads prevail, so they kind of cool the situation, and we see how that kind of builds the kind of the foreshadowing of the episode, because Grey Worm was kind of the, not to say mouthpiece, but was really vengeful in this episode. So we see Jon kind of walk past Grey Worm and everything, and we see Tyrion at that point before he's going off to see Dany. He looks for to see if Jaime and Cersei were able to make it out of King's Landing. He sees a little that there was rubble and all the destruction from the castle has fallen, but he's able to come into the underground, and he sees the hand of his brother, and obviously he breaks down and he removes some of the rubble and sees Jaime and Cersei have died, and that was a very emotional moment for him, because obviously I think the way I look at that scene, obviously he cares deeply for his brother, but I also think that he really was sad to see Cersei die as well. Just because Cersei hated him as much as she did, I still think that at the end of the day, it was family, and I think Tyrion really took that to heart when he saw them dead, and that was a really emotional moment. Just overall, and we'll talk about more of the moments that Peter Dinklage delivered, but this was just encapsulating just his performance throughout the episode and throughout the season. Just seeing that emotional moment there, so we get that kind of moment, and again it just adds more fuel to the fire. Just him really, really just feeling down about the decision of putting Dany in this power position. So we see, Arya, obviously has made it to this point where she survived the aftermath of Dany, and we saw last week's episode, which you guys can see my review on that episode. But we see Arya sees Jon kind of going through the wave of the Dothraki and the Unsullied and walking his way up to Dany, and as we see that, we see Arya walking with him, and just want to see what his reaction is going to be. And in that moment, which was just regardless of what I feel about the episode, regardless of what what your personal opinions are on the actual story, visually speaking, this season has looked gorgeous. But particularly in that moment where we see Drogon and Dany on landing down, and Dany's walking up to go greet per se, or give a speech to her soldiers and her people, and in the background you see the dragon's wings behind her, which was just such a beautiful shot. Again, regardless of what personal opinions are about the actual dialogue and the actual scenes, or as far as the character moments, that was a beautiful shot. So we see that Dany gives a very compelling speech to her people in regards to thank you for your services. You all have done what you said you were going to do. Your promises have been made to me that you will take what is rightfully mine, and in doing so, we're going to now take more. We're going to not just stop at King's Landing. We're going to go to all the other kingdoms and release them of their I don't want to say slavery, but release them of their rulers, or whoever's ruling them, or tyrants that are ruling those people. Which Tyrion sees that, and Jon sees that, and just like, this is the end. This is what you wanted. This is the end of the war. You are now queen of the 7 kingdoms. But Dany wants to take her that next step. And she has mentions, again, when she mentioned a couple seasons to Tyrion, that she wants to break the will, which is something that we bring up later in this episode. But at that point, I think Jon is still, putting everything in his head. Is like, how do we get to this point? And obviously, Tyrion at this point, they have a moment where Tyrion walks up to Dany, and Dany immediately says, "You freed your brother," which is treason. And Tyrion's immediate response, "Well, you killed, thousands of innocent people." And at that moment, he takes away his hand, his title of the hand, throws it. And Dany kind of at that moment is a little shocked, I believe. But I thought at that moment she was just going to instantly either have Grey Worm take him out, have Drogon eat him or burn him alive. But she was able to kind of take that in, and says, put him away, take him to prison, or put him in, capture him. And at that moment, we see Dany giving Grey Worm full control of the armies and all that stuff. And I think at that moment, I think Tyrion thought he was going to die, but obviously he gets captured or he gets put in a confinement and put in a as a prisoner at that point. So then we move on. We see Jon and Tyrion have a conversation, and they really just kind of hash out, how we got to this moment. I think at that, in this scene, it really kind of shows that Jon was still having a little bit of hope for Dany in regards to saying the things that I've been saying the last couple of weeks, in regards to the people she's lost. She's lost her children, the dragon. She's lost her best friend, Missandei. She's lost, Jor-El. She's lost so much. And that was just within this season. Jon doesn't even know most of the stuff, at least to my knowledge. He doesn't know a lot of the stuff that Dany's went through prior to this season. So it's just, he's trying to come up with these reasons. But then, Tyrion's giving it right back to her. It's just like, yeah, she's done this, but that doesn't give her the right to massacre these innocent people. And, within that conversation, which was a great scene, by the way, dialogue speaking wise, between Tyrion and Jon. But within that conversation, they talk about, and I wrote it here in my notes, a couple different quotes in regards to, what they say to each other in regards to love is more powerful than reason. We have love as a death of duty and things of that nature. So really beautiful scene that they share there, and it really kind of just shows, and Dany brings, Tyrion brings up the whole fire and blood and everything. So it's just a really beautiful scene, but it really planted the seed in Tyrion really kind of mentioning to Jon, what would your sisters think of this, this particular position that they're in, which really kind of nailed the hammer on the head of Jon having to do what he later does in the following scene to Dany, and it just kind of plants the seed that he used that last little moment, because everything that he was saying to Jon, Jon was just reflecting and still kind of continuously giving Dany the benefit of the doubt. But once he kind of brings in, remember what Dany said, she's not just going to stop at the Seven Realms. She's going to find her way back up to Winterfell. And you know how Dany and Sansa is. If that continues to go, how much longer do you think your queen is going to let Sansa live and Arya live? So that's when I think the moment when Jon realized he had to do what he had to do in the next scene, which was a really pivotal scene. All right, so the moment that, there's quite a few moments in this episode a lot of people are going to talk about, but this was definitely one of them. So we see Dany walking up to the Iron Throne, which kind of fulfills that vision that she had in season 2, the snow being down, and she touches the Iron Throne and kind of has a moment of reflection. Just she touches it. She's reached her goal. She is at Westeros. She's in King's Landing. She's in the throne room, and she's actually now seeing a throne. Touches the throne. In the middle of that, we see Jon slowly walking up to her, and she's happy. She really wants Jon now to accept the fate that is in front of them, the destiny that is in front of them. We have the bastard. We have, this girl who was sold off, who couldn't, imagine counting up to 20, I think she said was the line she gave Jon. And in that moment, Jon continues to say, you're my queen. You'll always be my queen. And, Dany's saying that we should rule, we can now release the world of tyrants. We can build our own world, a happier world. And Jon's in that moment, she's saying he's still trying to hold on to the hope. But then, they hug, they embrace each other. And then at that moment, it was really beautifully shot, because I knew he killed Dany. But if you didn't know much, if this was maybe your first episode, you might have thought, oh, did she kill him? But, we end up finding out that Jon does put a knife through Dany's heart, which, I think a lot of people have speculated, including myself, that some way, somehow, one of the Starks is going to be responsible for killing Dany, and it was Jon Snow, the person that she loved, which, I know to a lot of people's, and this is me included, their love moments within the last 2 seasons we really didn't share, and I know that's been a big criticism for a lot of people, is the feeling rushed, and in this moment I do agree with them, because that love, that moment to me didn't really hit as hard as I think they intended it to be, because for me, I just remember maybe honestly 3 or 4 scenes that we got in the last 2 years with these, or 2 seasons with these characters. They really kind of showed their love for each other, but not like what we got in previous seasons, where they really build their development of love, and how that moment should have hit a lot harder. At least speaking for me, it should have hit more harder when Jon having to kill Dany there. But the moment that did emotionally kind of get to me was Drogon seeing Dany die and kind of moving roll. We're like, come on, get up, mom, which was very reminiscent of a lot of moments. I think of Lion King and things of that nature. But he sees his mother dead, and the dragon reacts to it. At first I thought he was going to either eat Jon or maybe blow fire at Jon, which would have been interesting to see if Jon would have died from that. But he takes his anger out and destroys the Iron Throne, which a lot of people, like myself included, speculated that at the end of the day, the throne will not matter who sits on it, because it's not going to exist. So Drogon destroys the throne, which was a really cool moment also. He picks up Dany and just flies away, which was really interesting, because they bring it up later, where did he go? But anyway, he takes his mother away and goes off on whatever he does. So at that point, Grey Worm now has Jon as a prisoner. We kind of fast forward, I believe Tyrion says this is a couple weeks now. He's been thinking about it for a couple weeks. So we get a little bit of a time forward in time, and a couple weeks after Dany has died. And we get a really interesting scene, which I think is, as I had mentioned previously, we get a lot of pivotal moments. But this is a moment I would love to know your comments in regards to this entire scene. We get all the remaining houses that remain. We get... we see Sansa, we see Brienne, we see Sir Davos, we see Sam again, we see, all of the remaining houses and they have Tyrion there as the prisoner. Grey Worm lets him know that their justice should be done on Tyrion and also Jon. But in that moment, because I could spend 10 minutes talking about this moment as a whole, but we get the moment where they want to nominate a king. Sam says his word, everyone kind of laughs him off. We get a moment with Arya and Euron in the scene there, but it comes down to everyone making a vote, and the smartest person in the room, which is Tyrion, suggests that Bran, and this is the moment I would love to get you guys' comments. Brandon the Broken. He's knighted the king now of the 6 realms of the 6 kingdoms, because Sansa, I love how she throws it in. Oh, by the way, brother, I'm happy for you. You're going to be a great king. Go ahead and let me just handle the north. We'll be away from you. You won't rule us. And I know the people won't want to be ruled, even though later on she's going to be the queen of the north. But anyway, I love that moment there. But what I want to ask you all is, how do you feel about Brandon the Broken? Bran is now the king. I think hindsight, looking at it, because I'm reviewing this is almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and the episode's been over for almost 3 hours now, and I've just been writing my notes and thinking about it. It's such one of my favorite shows of all time. But I'm thinking about it in 2 different ways. I haven't read the books, and I've said this on my first episode, but for me, I think the show leading up to that, it kind of makes sense in regards to, again, Tyrion says that even, that, he won't be able to have children, and obviously he won't have that cycle of the children growing up to be either good or bad. And also, too, as they have mentioned that moment, that he has the history of men. He knows the good, the bad, the ugly, everything that comes with the history of the throne. So he has that to his benefit. And, it makes sense in that when you bring up all those things. But then the other side of the coin for me is just like, this particular character, Bran, has been really more of a plot device in my eyes. There was one, I can't think of what, it was either season 5, where we didn't get Bran at all. And for him to be on the throne as the king is an interesting decision. That's why I said I would love to know what you all thought. If you thought it was good for him to be on the throne, if you read the books, maybe this kind of foreshadows that a lot more better than the show did in my eyes, or if you thought someone else should have been on the throne. I think at the end of the day, I don't think anyone, someone's going to be disappointed, because everyone wanted someone different. But I would love to know what you all thought of Bran ultimately being the one on the Iron Throne. Again, the more I'm thinking about it, he knights Tyrion as the hand of the king, which in hindsight really kind of goes back to the conversation a couple episodes ago, when Bran, Tyrion suggests that he should be king. He says he doesn't want to be the king. But I think in that moment, when Bran knights, Tyrion as the hand of the king, that's pretty much saying that Tyrion's gonna be the king, because I think Bran really, as we all know, he doesn't have any wants anymore. So I think at the end of the day that the decision really for Bran to be the king is to really let Tyrion be the king, kind of in a sense of a way, and if you think of it that way. But anyway, kind of moving forward for the rest of the episode, the rest of the episode is really more or less, which I didn't expect, and that's something about Game of Thrones. They never give you what you expect. We thought that everyone was going to die eventually, and hell, we thought that the Night King might have been the king of the 7 realms, or the king of the world at that point, but that didn't play out. But anyway, the rest of the episode pretty much breaks down kind of what everyone's up to and how their story ends. So kind of running through this list here, Grey Worm and the Unsullied go to the beach that they had mentioned to Missandei, before we got episode 3. Arya goes west of Westeros, kind of going on her own journey, which I don't know, did we get a spin-off there, or we close that chapter, which I'm fine with. But we see Arya kind of go off on her banners of the Stark and goes west of Westeros to discover new adventures. Brienne adds more to Jaime's legacy. In the book, the last thing it says about Jaime is he's the Kingslayer, but she kind of puts a little bit more stuff in there, saying that he's a little bit more noble and a little bit more of a hero than the stories have been told for him before. And I think the last line that she put in the book was that he died protecting the king, or the queen, which was Cersei. We see Sam, Bronn, Brienne, Lord Davos. We see all of them in their kind of council meeting, and Tyrion leading the meeting there, and it's a kind of a comedic moment, a little bit levity of all the heavy stuff that we got. Bran comes in and again goes back to me saying that really Tyrion's the king, because Bran is like, okay, well, I'm going to see where Drogon is. I'm going to go ahead and warp into, do my 3-eyed raven thing, and you guys take care of this. So that kind of leads more to, I think, Bran really wanted Tyrion to kind of be the king because he's going to really be more of the making demands than Bran is. So we get that moment there, which was again a not quieter moment, but a more lighter moment, and releases the hardship and kind of the sad moments that we got in the previous hour of the episode. So nice little scene there. And then we kind of finish off the episode. Jon is told to go back to the Night Watch, where we see him and Tormund kind of have a little reunion, and also Ghost. He finally acknowledges his dire wolf there, and it looks like at that point in my eyes, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume that Jon is not. There is no more Night's Watch because the evils behind the wall are pretty much eliminated, with the Night King being gone, and all of the myths and legends really kind of being gone at that point. So Jon kind of leads the free folk into the forest, and they're just going to kind of live their life, So I thought that was a really interesting take on one of probably my favorite character of the show, which is Jon Snow, just because of how noble he was. He was the most Ned Stark character since we got Ned Stark in season 1. That it was really just him kind of going off and staying in the north, and leading people, in a sense, the free folk, and just kind of living his life. So I thought that was an interesting decision for Jon Snow, not to be able to have kids anymore, as Bran says, and Night Watch, was the Night Watch, like I said, I don't think exists anymore. So really interesting wave of goodbye to one of my favorite characters. So we also see Sansa is now the Queen of the North, which was really I think was a great way to end her character, because again, if you go back to season 1 to season 8, it's a really beautiful character arc that we get there with Sansa, and it kind of goes to show that the remaining Starks end up getting revenge in a sense, and also the Starks and the Lannisters actually team together, which was very interesting, because you would have thought at the very beginning of the season 1, that it was going to be to the death, the Starks versus the Lannisters, but things didn't play out that way. So the Starks kind of get their way. Sansa's the Queen of the North. Jon's off north with the free folk. Arya is traveling west of Westeros, and Bran is now the king. So they kind of got what they wanted, which as fans of the Starks, I guess it's a nice little bow on their ending there. So overall thoughts, I'm still kind of processing this episode. I'm going to watch it again because Morgan didn't get to see it. I'm going to watch it again because I just love this show. But this show, as far as the ending goes, again, there was some good, there was some bad, there was some character moments that I thought should have played out differently. But again, I didn't write this show. I'm not a writer of the show. I'm not a writer at all. But, I'm definitely going to take in what I saw. But as my initial thoughts, I think there were some disappointing moments in regards to the finale, but at the end of the day, I'm going to rewatch this show. I'm going to rewatch this episode in particular, and things may change, but, kind of jumping into my overall thoughts as far as the series goes. We know we're going to get the spinoffs. We know that we have 8 seasons to recap and to watch over and over again as one of the most popular shows ever, and I think it will go down as one of the best shows ever produced on television, in my opinion. But I think as a series, so first off, season 8 I think was a really well done season. Yes, it felt rushed at times. Yes, some of the characters that we were really built up, the Night King, Cersei, Jon Snow for some people, Dany for some people. I mean, there's a lot of characters that we all love, and not all of them got the best justice in regards to story arc that we at least wanted. But I think that's the thing that we have to remember. This isn't a show that we are writing. This is a show that was in the hands of some other very creative people that for the most part laid the groundwork, did a great job of building up to those moments. And I think at the end of the day, I think that season 8 was a well done season. Yes, again, it was rushed at times. Some of the characters didn't get what we wanted, but I think there was more positives than negatives, at least for me. As far as the season finale, I'm split between it. I think I liked it more than I disliked it, but I'm going to rewatch again and kind of give myself more time to digest all of it. But as far as season 8, I enjoyed it. But now jumping to the series, I think, again, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. This has some of the richest characters I've ever seen on television, some of the most jaw-dropping moments, visually speaking, character moments, dialogue, the politics and everything that went into it. Being a fan of sci-fi, being a fan of fantasy, I think this is one of the most well-produced things ever on film, on television. I think it was just really well done. I'm excited to see not only what the show has to do as far as its legacy. Again, we're going to get spinoffs. We got 2 more books to go. We have these wonderful actors and actresses that played these characters. I'm excited to see where their career goes. I really hope that a lot of them don't get typecasted per se in the roles they're known for in the show. Obviously, we've seen some of them branch off, like Sansa, who's doing doing her X-Men thing. Macy Williams is doing her thing. Jon Snow. Kit Harington is doing his thing. So it's really cool to see them kind of branch out. And then we obviously know the creators of the show is doing the Star Wars trilogy of their own. So I'm really excited to see their careers advance. But all in all, again, series thoughts. It was one of my favorite shows ever. I can't wait to rewatch the season, since we now have the complete series here now. Now we got the finale. I'm excited to maybe even dive deep into the books to get more understanding of some of these characters. I know from everyone I know that read the books that there's definitely a lot more of the fleshing out of some of the characters and the storylines. So I'm excited to maybe explore that avenue one of these days. But all in all, I am glad that I was able to be a part of this live, in real time, because there's some shows that I didn't watch live. Like one of my favorite shows ever was Breaking Bad. I didn't watch Breaking Bad while it was live on television. I had to rewatch it and binge it, which was a different experience, and that goes into how we feel about Game of Thrones. It's obviously someone that is going to binge it might enjoy it or might not enjoy it as much. So very interesting there, but I was glad I was able to watch it in live time, and I'm glad to be a part of it. And in 10 to 15 years, it'll be really interesting to see how people react to not just this episode in general, but the series as a whole. So there you have it, 26-minute video here as far as my review, overall thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Again, I would really appreciate any comments you have about not only this review, but the episode, the show, the season, the series. Let me know. And also, what are you expecting to see? What are you excited for regarding this, the spin-offs and the books, things of that nature? Let me know in the comments. As always, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Make sure you hit that notification bell to stay up to date with our latest videos. As far as we're going to continue to do our movie reviews, our trailer reactions, unboxings, but as far as TV shows go, probably the next thing you can expect to see from us regarding TV is probably Stranger Things. And then, of course, there's a lot of other great TV coming out. Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu. So definitely keep an eye out for some more TV reviews that we would love to do for you all. So thank you for watching this review. Subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell. Follow us on all of our social media accounts. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Stardust, and on and all those things. So definitely follow us there. Thank you for watching this recap. Thank you for watching all of the recaps so far. We will expect to see more when we get these spinoffs of Game of Thrones. But thank you all for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.